Hi everyone, Sandra Duran Wilson here, and welcome to this week Mixed Media Soul Sparks. Every week I like to bring you some ideas about mixed media painting, inspiration ideas, studio tips, new products that are coming my way. And this week we're going to look at collage design. And I want to take you from a simple design to a complex design and a couple of composition techniques to help you along the way. So the first thing I want to share with you are using some papers that are already made. And these papers that we're looking at here are, some of these I know are going to fade out in time. Others are much more stable. This one is a graphic black and white that was printed with a laser type of printing. This is it's a marbled paper, so I know this is going to last well. But this red one, especially, and some of this black, they're going to fade out. And so before I even start to cut those up, this is what I do, is I use, it's a UV resistant clear. You can get different brands, it doesn't matter, but it's going to protect these papers. The other thing you can use is Preserve It. So if you're using like book pages or newsprint that might not have a good pH and that those papers could then yellow or crumble over time, that's a good product to use. The UV, I like to take this when the papers are still in a larger size. And then I take those outside and I spray them. And I usually leave them out there because the stuff really is fumy. So that's what I would do. Then I start to cut out my shapes. Now with this particular piece, I was working with some sketches that I did first. And I just want to kind of talk you through what I'm looking at here in a design. And I've got this repetition of both of these papers. They've got the same kind of pattern within them, but they're different sizes, different scale. So they're both kind of an oval shape, but one's larger, one's smaller. So it's kind of the buddy system. Because the red is really the color your eye is going to go to, it's so bright, I wanted to add a third piece in there. Look at what happens if I take this piece off. It really changes the way the piece feels. I think it still works well because this black is so strong that it's going to pull your eye there. And the same with the pattern. Anytime you have a graphic black and white pattern, that's going to take your eye to that spot. And where does your eye go to first? Is this area right here, because you have the highest area of contrast. You've got a pattern and you've got this dark against this white. So boom, that's where your eye is going to go. But if I put this red back in here, it starts to change kind of the balance and the feel of it. The other thing I like to do is, again, I have a similar shape to these, but yet different. It's as if I took this one and cut it in half, which I did. Then I kept this one whole. But I have another little piece here. And if I overlap that piece, do you see how this begins to read as a larger shape as opposed to having this over here? You get a very different feeling. So with design and collage, I love to do this because you can play around with these slightly different placements and you can begin to, I don't know, for me, I get a sense of it like right in my gut. If it feels a little off, it's like, no, it's not right. Like over here, that just feels like it's forgotten, it's lost. But what would happen if I took it off to the side and I cut that off? Then it has a different feeling. It's like it's either leaving or it's just entering, whereas here it's just floating by itself. So when you start to do these designs, kind of give yourself a narrative, a story. What are you trying to tell? Is the piece entering or leaving, or are you trying to convey a feeling of isolation? Then perhaps that's going to say that. Now you're going to see here is a book page, and I've got all these other little pieces in here. There's some dots on here, so I'm kind of replicating the dot pattern there, but yet it's very subtle. Now here, if I can blend that in, I've got another piece of this. How does that feel if I add it into there? You know, that's very strong and bold, so maybe I don't want that there. Maybe I just want to bring a piece of this in. Very different feeling. So all of these pieces you can play with. The same with the little repetition of, oops, let's get that back over there. More of this pattern up there. I don't like to have any one thing by itself. Now this book page is by itself, but yet it's got the dots, so it does start to fit in there. What a difference that little piece makes. I mean, I could bring it over to here, start to play with those ideas. So these are all possibilities. This is a simple design. So the elements are the same, whether it's simple or complex. But let me show you what I mean by complex. Now this is a piece that is in process, and I actually began it with a story, a narrative based on a photograph, and it was like a deep slot canyon. And so all these papers were kind of going into this way. But what happens when you try and replicate a collage from a realistic photo is sometimes it just doesn't translate the same. So it felt like everything was shooting my eye off of the panel, coming down into this way. So look at what happens if I start to bring in another element as a stop. And this is what you might consider a stop. Do you see? Your eye is not shooting off there anymore. And these little repetition, those will hold your eye too. So you enter in here, you go around that way, and you come up to these little pieces. Black and white graphic, again, is another stop that you can add into there. All of these things begin to overlap, texture, patterns, colors are replicating. This little border or a vignette helps to keep the eye concentrated into the panel rather than floating off, because we've got so much going on here and not so much going on there. So if I didn't have that dark element up there, I think you might float off that edge. So I'm going to finish some of these up and I'll post them along with the video so you can see the differences between the simple and the complex. But I hope this gives you some ideas for doing your composition and your collages, and really play around with it. Take a piece away, and if it works better without it, then you don't need it. And thanks for joining me this week. And if you like the video, please click like and share, and I'll see you next week. Join the community and share your creations on social. Use the hashtag MixedMediaSoulSparks. I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section.